Good blessed Friday morning, May the 28th, 2021. It's about 9:47 a.m. I greet all human beings all around the world with a universal greetings of peace and the blessings of God be with you. It doesn't matter what your political, philosophical, personal, nor religious beliefs may be. Doesn't matter whether you're the richest to the poorest person on the face of this earth. It doesn't even matter whether you the proclaimed toughest to the proclaimed weakest person on the face of this earth. Doesn't matter if you're my family, friends, nor my proclaimed enemies. Doesn't matter whether you like me, my YouTube channel, which is Raymond, Raymond, Ivy. I encourage all of you all that hasn't subscribed to my YouTube channel. It's free. I suggest that you subscribe to it. You'll get some knowledge and some wisdom. But what I want to talk about today is the death of my son, Bryan Lamar Johns. That's B-R-Y-A-N, Lamar, L-A-M-A-R, Johns, J-O-H-N-S. He was found hung March the 19th, 2021. in Carbondale, Illinois, on the third floor of an apartment building at 400 Oakland Street. Around the corner on that same building that's extended to that building around the corner on Sycamore Street. Sycamore in Oakland is right on the same corner, but right around the corner on the third floor, my son's two T-shirts, possibly his face mask, his two T-shirts was found on the third floor, and possibly his face mask found on the second floor stair landing. But I just want to show y'all something. It's been 70 days as of today that my son's body been found. Originally, a deputy coroner and a investigated lieutenant, commanding lieutenant for the Carbondale Police Department, and the deputy coroner works out of the Jackson County coroners, the Jackson County period, in the Carbondale, in I believe Murphyboro and Marion area, but they declared my son's death a suicide. But now I went down there on the 24th and met with them, and on the 25th, it was opened up as a death investigation. But what I want to show you something. Matter of fact, let's say this. I was invited to a George Floyd march in Carbondale, Illinois, on the 25th of this month, May. And I videoed it. I got a part 1, 2, and 3. And they allowed me after the march, after the other speakers, they allowed me to speak. But during this march, I was seeing a lot of news reporters with cameras and notepads. And each one of them that I talked to them, I asked them where they was from, and they told me the Southern. That's the biggest paper in that area, in Carbondale area. It's called the Southern Illinois. And as I was walking, you can hear me talking to some of them. I was telling them about my son being found hung in Carbondale on the 19th of March 2021, and it never hit their paper or no other news besides my YouTube channel. You can tell they didn't have any interest. And it was a couple that I sent emails to directly. And one of them happened to be at this march. And I mentioned his name during the speech, and I didn't know he was there. But I see why people say, oh. But I want to show y'all something first. This is a picture of my dad. He was born November the 27th, 1927. November the 19th, 1927, and he passed away. God called him home from my house. Hey, now, on January the 30th of 2021, on my oldest daughter's birthday. May he rest in peace. Reason why I'm showing y'all this here, my dad, Johnny A. Ivy Sr., they called him Pancho. You see, in the 1940s, it was a war called World War II, when people was being drafted to fight against one of the most racist individuals in the world, Adolf Hitler. My dad was one of hundreds of thousands, especially of blacks, that was drafted in this war. But if you look what was going on back in the 1940s, when this war was going on with Hitler, you still had white supremacists hanging blacks in the South. You still had blacks didn't even have equal rights. This flag, this is what the United States president or the military gave me for my dad after he died. This flag. Now, this flag's supposed to represent freedom and justice for all. You see what I'm saying? But you see, Martin Luther King and John F. Kennedy Jr. Hey, Pops. John F. Kennedy Jr. and one of the popes wouldn't have made this particular statement or phrase if it was equal justice for all in this United States. They made the statement, they said, where there's an injustice anywhere, there's a threat to justice everywhere. And that's still going on today. Now, this is my son, Bryan Lamar Johns. He was born September the 27th, 1975. His body was found lifeless, hanging on the third floor in an apartment building in Carbondale, Illinois, at 400 Oakland Street, right around the corner in the same building, but around the corner on the Sycamore side in the 400 block. His 2 T-shirts was found on the third floor. His hand was found balled up like this with money in it. But they say he hung himself. And now, the reason why I'm telling y'all this, today marks 70 days that my son's body was found. And not one time has it been in any news in Southern Illinois or any place else besides on my YouTube, and other people sharing my YouTube on their Facebook pages in other places to let it be seen what's going on. Now, why has this not been reported? Now, originally I was told when I met with them that they didn't have it in the newspaper is because they was trying to find the next of kin. But the commanding lieutenant for the Carbondale Police Department and the deputy coroner for Jackson County, Illinois, they met with me and my son's mother and my 2 youngest daughters. So they knew the next of kin. You see what I'm saying? But still, that was on the 24th. But here it is. That was the 24th of March. Now, what is the excuse now that this is almost the ending of May? It's 70 days today. You see, they may think my son didn't mean nothing to somebody or anybody, but I did. You know, this is compliments of a Spanish guy in Chicago that made this here for my oldest daughter, Jennifer, and made this and some more shirts for my son. And even though he charges a certain amount, he did some of the things on here for free because he said he has a son and he know my feelings. And I'm going to tell y'all why I have this particular shirt, Let My People Go. Harriet Tubman said it real clear. She said, I freed 1,000 slaves. I could have freed 1,000 more if I can only convince them that they were slaves. And there's a lot of blacks today, because they got certain positions, they won't speak up about the death of my son. You see what I'm saying? There are individuals that's in positions should have been had my son's death in the newspaper. You see what I'm saying? Especially when it went from suicide, even if it was suicide, especially when it went from suicide to a death investigation. You see, now you have some law enforcement there, I don't know if all, some of them there saying that my son hung himself. You see what I'm saying? That my son was suicidal. You see what I'm saying? That my son used drugs. You see, I don't care if a person talk about suicide, you see what I'm saying? But they never had a history of trying to commit suicide. They did 14 years and 9 months in the Illinois Department of Correction, most of that time in maximum security penitentiaries like the Menard Correctional Center in Chester, Illinois, the Pontiac Correctional Center in Pontiac, Illinois, Stateville, and Joliet, but he didn't commit suicide. He been out all these years, but he didn't commit suicide. You see what I'm saying? But yet, his hand was balled up with money in it, y'all. And if you look at my other YouTubes and see the circumstances around it, how did this happen? Why was his t-shirts around the corner? You see, let me tell you again what this deputy coroner told me. He told me he was the coroner, but I did research and I couldn't find him nowhere in there as being a coroner. I found him as being the deputy coroner. But let me tell you something else. In Fredericktown, Missouri, that's not too far from me, going towards St. Louis, Missouri, a young black guy was found shot in a white guy's house who had a Confederate flag on the outside of his house. On his Facebook page, he had things on his Facebook page showing that he was a racist. He claimed he was out fishing. His daughter was having a birthday party. His daughter didn't really too much know the guy that was in the house, the black guy that was in their house, and everybody else is in there white. But so happened, soon he got back from fishing, the black guy is upstairs in the attic, shot in the head, or the temple, I believe it was. Now listen to this here, shot in the head of the temple. And at first, they tried to rule it suicide, and I think they might still be, but it was a pathologist that used to work for the St. Louis, Missouri coroner's office, was a medical examiner and a pathologist. She retired and went into private practice, and the family hired them, and she seen a whole different thing. In order for him to commit suicide, it would be burnt marks and things on by his temple. But she said it, whoever shot him, they had to be some distance away. And then guess what? He's right-handed, and guess what was on his right hand? A cast. Cast on his right hand. My son, right-handed, balled up with money in it. And it's like that. Once you die, that's how, my son died laying down. You see what I'm saying? He had to die laying down because the coroner had to pry the money out. This has not just been happening in the state of Missouri, but this didn't happen. People done told me about other cases in southern Illinois. You see what I'm saying? What is it that people trying to cover up? I know who my son hung around because when me and my daughters used to go up there to see him from Missouri, which was an hour and 10 minutes away, it was all 99.99% white, and they was either meth users or probably dealers. Meth addicts. You see what I'm saying? Right down the street from where he was found. You see, people said that his friends But when is it going to be a march for Bryan Lamont Johns? I shouldn't have to come down there and march. If he had friends down there, they should be marching. If you're marching about anything, you see what I'm saying? Let's go back to what Martin Luther King and John F. Kennedy Jr. and the Pope said, where there's an injustice anywhere, there's a threat to injustice everywhere. Something ain't right about my son's death. Something ain't right about it. See, I couldn't afford to get another pathologist, but I got enough information to see that something ain't right. And you see what I'm saying? Sometimes people cover stuff up. And if the shoe fit, wear it. And if ain't nobody trying to cover it up, let it be. But sometimes people cover up things when they feel that a white person might have killed a black unjustly, and they don't want the heat. You see, Carbondale has the university down there. You see what I'm saying? SIU. And I talked to a lot of the Indian students, and they said they heard about it. You see what I'm saying? But you see, one thing, when I went to that march and I spoke and told about how many times I contacted the Southern newspaper. After everything was over with, not one of them news medias, even the one guy that was there, that I sent him an email today again. You see what I'm saying? And letting them know today marked the 70th day that my son was dead. You see what I'm saying? The least they could have did, you follow what I'm saying? Let me show y'all something. Every time I'm out, early when I was out, first came out, a police car come, but this what happens all the time. And I'm gonna tell you another thing. With looking around all these law enforcement with these people with badges, and not all, if the shoe don't fit your feet, don't wear it. If it fits your feet, wear it. But they round here killing blacks and getting away with it. Not all of them, but it's a lot of corruption. It's a lot of racism that's still here. And I'm going to let my dad know that his son, is going to make sure that we can find out what happened to his son. My dad dedicated his life to this country, but this country ain't dedicated their life to my dad, my son, me, or none of my children. You see what I'm saying? And some of these well-off blacks, you see what I'm saying? I'm asking God to tell Pharaoh to let them go, because they in captivity. I thank all you white and blacks that met with me after the march on May the 25th, 2021 in Carbondale for the George Floyd March. I thank y'all for taking my information. And y'all, when you watch this here, spread it. Ask why didn't damn one of them news reporters or news journalists was interested in what I was saying about my son. I know it was the march for George Floyd, but you know, if I'm a journalist, I'll write that down and put it in my pocket. You see what I'm saying? And ask myself why. But you got to be, sometimes, and some people might get offended, sometimes you got to be white. You see what I'm saying? And sometimes you have to be rich to get attention. But you see, my son gonna get attention until the day I die. If you're looking at this here, spread this around and ask the Southern, especially ask all of them reporters that was out there. You see what I'm saying? Why ain't nobody interested in 70 days a black man found hung? I don't care if they called it suicide or not. A black man being hung, it ain't been reported in the news. Something is being covered up. And I'm going to try my best to expose it. I'm going to do it God's way. No justice, no peace. Peace be still.